We've got Susan LeBlanc, Vice President of Marketing, to talk about growth-driven operating models for your marketing department. So how do we think about structuring our teams, the technology, and ultimately building a strategy to scale without limits? So with that, please welcome Susan to the stage.
Thank you. Hello. That was really great, Colin. Thank you. I feel like we're going to have to talk after. And actually, hopefully, as I'm talking, if I'm doing my job, you're going to notice there's a common thread and between what he was talking about and what I'm going to talk about. So there's definitely going to be a pop quiz right after this, and we'll see if it worked. So where's the clicker? Oh, thank you. Perfect. There we go. All right, so hi, I am Susan LeBlanc. I'm the Vice President of Marketing with Meridian Credit Union. My journey didn't start at Meridian though, so I'm gonna give you like the 30-second rendition of my life story. Professionally at least. It all started when I was 9, and I do have to go that far back. When I realized that I had a deep passion for understanding human behavior. Some family dynamics might have inspired that. And I knew at the age of 9 that I was going to be a psychologist one day. But it didn't really work out that way for me. I ended up moving out and living on my own at a very young age and finishing high school on my own. So, of course, as soon as that was done, when I was 17, I had to go to work. And so I started my career in manufacturing, assembling computers, just on the assembly line. And from there, I worked for a number of tech companies doing operations. I did some inventory control. I kind of wiggled my way into an account manager role. And then it was finally at the age of 22 that, all this time I had been studying marketing in night school, and then later studied psychology as well. But at the age of 22, I landed my first marketing job at a multimedia company, actually doing some things that were similar to what Shannon was presenting earlier, with multimedia videos and stuff. So that's some really cool stuff. Since then, I have worked in marketing for different sizes of organizations, from startup companies where, at the time I didn't really realize that I should have negotiated stock options and worked my way out of a job, so that was really fun, all the way up to national organizations, typically focused on Canadian markets. That's a bit of a sweet spot for me. And across all different industries. I've actually never really worked in the same industry twice. So, I talked about tech, I've worked in education, I've worked in nonprofit, entertainment, and now banking. So this is kind of a new one for me. And of course, across all different functions in marketing, from standing up, new CRM systems and building complicated one-to-one marketing journeys back when we used to build them in a complicated way. It's a lot simpler now in how we execute those. And brand marketing, relaunching a couple of Canada's beloved brands, Heart and Stroke and Scene Plus. So throughout my career, really the only constant has been change, and that's how I like it. It keeps it fresh. But I've been at Meridian for about 18 months now, and we are on a path of rapid transformation. And I have no doubt that everyone in this room is going through the same thing. And frankly, we have been for a little while now, right? So a little bit about Meridian. We're a full-service, member-owned financial institution with over 80 years of banking history. We offer all the same products and services as a bank. The difference is that we're member-owned, and anyone can become a member, but we're member-owned. And so rather than being beholden to shareholders, we actually reinvest all of our profits back into the products and services that our members want and need, and into the communities that we serve. We've got 88 branches across Ontario, 15 business centers, 380,000 members across retail and business banking and wealth, and we have an award-winning brand and an award-winning digital banking platform. So we've been around for 80 years, but we're also very, very in with the times with our technology. In 2022, we got a new CEO, Jeanne Guilfoy, who set a mandate for our purpose-driven organization. It's called the Meridian for Good strategy, and it's focused on helping our members achieve their best lives. We do this by being an inclusive, people-first financial institution, and by helping Canadians who are often turned away from the larger institutions. We look for ways to say yes. And we believe that there's a role for financial organizations to help people in some really unimaginable ways. But make no mistake, this do good strategy is a growth strategy. Why? Well, it's because our profit is for people, and the more profitable we are, the greater our impact on the communities that we serve. So we're very serious about this. In fact, I was brought on board with a mandate to exponentially grow the business and do that without dramatically increasing resources or costs. And based on conversations that I've had with many of you and other peers across our industry and in marketing, this is a very familiar mandate right now. But how do you grow exponentially during a time of rapid technological evolution and uncertainty? In an environment where none of us can really predict the future, right? We have some assumptions and predictions, but we don't really know where AI is going to take things. How do you know that you're making the right decisions? It's tough out there right now. And here's a quote from one of my new best friends, Copilot. C-suite leaders are prioritizing AI and automation to manage cost pressures while maintaining or increasing productivity. And while nearly 90% of large companies are investing in digital and AI transformation, most of them are capturing less than a third of the value that they expected, according to McKinsey & Company. So I know that we're all feeling this right now. And that's because technology alone is not enough. So when the corporate mandate is to reduce costs, maintain headcount, constantly do more with less, how do you scale, right? That's the question. Top performing companies don't just invest in technology, they focus on strategy, talent, operating models, and adoption. And this holistic approach is what will differentiate the leaders from the laggards, especially in these times of rapid change. So it's not just about the tools, right? It's about the people and how they use them. And so that's what I'm going to focus on with you today. So 2 years ago, Meridian did some research to identify segments in the market who presented our greatest opportunity for growth. We worked with Environics to identify the right segments who were aligned to our values and our purpose, and who needed the products and services that we had to offer. The results were a pretty ugly slide. This is really just for demonstration purposes. 13 custom segments that we focus on today. We took those 13 segments and we identified the ones who would be most likely to require our services across all of our lines of business, so retail, wealth, and business banking. Because given our size, Meridian is well positioned to be nimble across those lines. And so we see a bit of a competitive advantage there, and that was part of the strategy. And this level of focus was the first lever required to drive growth in the years ahead. Next, we work with the Cult Branding Company to, if you've ever been to the Gathering in Alberta, it's an annual conference, really fantastic. So they run that, the Cult. They helped us to develop a new brand platform that aligns really nicely to our values and our needs of our future audiences without alienating our existing audiences. So to do this right, we really needed to understand our audiences. And so we met with and interviewed our prospects from our new custom grow segments and our existing members and a lot of employees as well. Because what they had to say really mattered to us, and we asked them, what do you need this brand to be for you? We went so far as to question whether we needed to change Meridian's name, after having the name Meridian for the last 20 years. Or who we were, or our product suite. Nothing was off the table through this exercise. And what we discovered that we really actually didn't need to depart from who we were. We needed to lean into it more. because our strength is our people. And it's both our employees and our members. So I'm talking about both of those audiences, and it's the personalized service that we offer. And this was the most important thing to our audiences. And I think anyone who's done consumer research, for finance, that's really the trend right now. Is people really do want personalized service. So then Cult helped us design a winning brand platform out of that research, and then we launched it from the inside out. We really held employees at the center of the brand rollout, and this was crucial to our success. We told the story of the brand, both why and why now, and we engaged all levels of the organization, and we celebrated the new brand attributes that we had built out. This process took about 4 months, and it included multiple tactics to encourage brand adoption, even before we revealed any of the creative. So our staff they were going nuts. They were like, could you just show it to us already? But we did that intentionally to get them really excited about it. And while that was going on, the creative team was very busy in the background building out our new creative platform and brand guidelines so that when we did reveal them and begin training our employees on them, they would understand it fully and be excited and ready to embrace it. So at a time when many brands are leaning into AI image generation, Meridian actually chose to lean into custom member photography. That's what you see here. These are all pictures of our members that we've gone out to capture, and this is part of our branding now. We know that member success is our success, and their stories are our most compelling proof point of the Meridian difference. And we wanted to highlight that in the brand. So from there, we worked with our agencies, Elemental and Impossible Studios, to develop an award-winning creative campaign that truly spoke to Meridian's difference, that you're not a number, you're a member. And we launched this across all channels, highly targeted to our custom segments. So many of you may not have seen this TV spot, this video, because if you're not part of the target audience, then you would not have seen it. I myself never actually got to see it out in the wild. But for those who have, I've heard like, wow, it's everywhere, I can't get away from it. So I wanted to play this for you today, but we had some tech challenges. So you might have to go onto YouTube or otherwise find it. It's winning a lot of awards right now. We're very proud of it. And we didn't just focus on awareness. We launched it across the full funnel, of course, right down to product offers, all targeting the same audiences. And the results are really meaningful. After the second wave of our campaign being in the market, our growth segments are now outperforming they're performing around 40% better than all of our other segments. So this is really working, it's resonating. We know we're talking to the right people, and we know that we're saying the right things. The rollout of the brand platform was successful because we started with the audience and we stayed with the audience through the whole process. And that was both our internal audiences and our external ones. We approached this job to be done with considerable focus, and we built it from the inside out. But of course, growth doesn't just mean acquiring boatloads of new customers, although we're doing that and very, very proud of it. It also means holding on to the ones that you have. And to do this in a meaningful way, you need to put your customers before the business. So rather than thinking of what products and services your customer might need, think about the customer's life moments that might involve your products or services, because that's how they're thinking about you. If we can deliver on what the person needs, the individual, then that's how we're going to win. And of course, you guys already know this. I knew that we could do a really good job of that if we just focused on the needs of the member, but it was a lot easier said than done. I think that structure dictates outcome, and our marketing team wasn't structured to focus on the needs of the member. We were structured to drive product growth. So we had our brand team. They were a new team, right, when we relaunched the brand, and they were focused on relaunching the brand. That was the job. And then we had our line of business team, and each marketing lead on that team acted as a liaison with the specific lines of business within the organization, planning campaigns based on the lines of business needs and priorities. And while this model definitely supported product profitability, I had to keep asking, where's the member in all of this? Where's our customer? And nobody had a holistic view of our member and what they needed. What's more, the people planning the work were actually on different teams from the people executing it. And we were asking the people to execute to also discover and implement new technologies while balancing execution priorities of the business. And you can imagine how well that went. We needed to rapidly scale our capabilities, but we had no time to focus on it. So that team was very stressed and not very happy, to be honest. And we weren't set up to scale the business or to meet the needs of our members. I don't think we were even really set up to meet our own needs. I think the model that we had was good for the time that we had it, and it was time for a change. I needed a new structure that would focus predominantly on serving the needs of our audiences, who would have different requirements of us depending on what stage of their journey they were at. And I needed to design this to ensure that we still met our product and profitability targets, of course, because those line of business targets are really critical to the business, while evolving our marketing technology. So I started to map out a basic org structure, in my head and on a sheet of paper, and it was really centered around the needs of the member. Because again, that's how we're gonna win. Deliver what they want, and they will be loyal to us in return. Now, I had this org chart, right, and I was pretty proud of myself. It looked pretty good. When I thought about implementing it, I first put myself in the shoes of the employees, again, thinking about the audience. I thought back to the many reorgs that I've been in my career, and there were lots, and the average marketing team goes through a reorg about once every 18 months. So if you feel like you're reorganizing a lot, we are, right? That's sort of the nature of it. That's according to a Gartner study, every 18 months. I've experienced some that have gone pretty poorly and some that have, gone pretty well. And I've done some that have gone okay and others that, not so much maybe. I saw firsthand through all of that experience how long it took for a team to rebound after a reorg, right? You kind of set it, you announce it, and then things tend to fall apart after that. It takes a while for people to kind of get into their new groove. And I noticed that how quickly that transition happened often correlated to the method that was chosen in reorganizing. Oftentimes, senior leaders believe that sort of ripping the Band-Aid off is the fastest way to an end state, when in actuality, the transition is just beginning in that moment. And that's because it takes time for the human brain to process change. Right? It goes through what's called the change curve. I'm sure many of you have seen this diagram in one form or another. Depending on how prepared or unprepared people are for the change is what determines how long the change itself is going to take and how quickly you'll get adoption. And there are things you can do to get people to that adoption stage faster and to minimize what I like to call that pit of despair, right, that people can find themselves in when they're going through a change. So I wanted my reorg to go amazingly well. I wanted my team to come out of it feeling enthusiastic and empowered and ready to drive our strategic mandate to grow the business. And I knew that they had gone through a reorg actually not even 1 year prior, and they were very sensitive to the idea of going through another one. So I started by listening, and actually took several months to just listen and understand the team's pain points and the reasons that they didn't feel like we were able to increase our operations, because that's what I kept hearing, right? I was being told, grow the business, scale operations, and my team kept saying, we can't. So what I did was I gathered my marketing directors together, and I shared some observations that I was having about the team's challenges. We had a very empathetic conversation. And I'm going to go through a list of some of the things that I had noticed in the months it took me to sort of audit things. I noticed that strategy and execution were done on separate teams, and that this was not efficient. And that and it wasn't really a model that was aligned to the skills that future marketers are going to need either. So I didn't think that it was really a good model for the career progression of everyone on my team. Because I think, with AI, again, we don't fully know where it's going, but we can tell that it's starting to be used for strategy and it's starting to be used for execution. And so what's that point in the middle? That's the human part. right? That's where humans come in and have a real role to play, but you're going to have to know how to do both strategy and execution. So I made that observation. I thought that was really important. And also the future marketer, they're full stack, right? That's what we call that when you're doing strategy to execution and have the ability to do that. I also shared that parts of our team were operating in an agile way, which was great, very efficient, and other parts were still doing waterfall, so we needed to clean that up. I noticed that asking the team to explore and implement new technologies while executing urgent campaigns was frankly unfair to them and not the way that we were going to win. I noticed that I was asking my brand team to report on new member acquisition because the brand strategy was a growth strategy, but they weren't actually accountable for member growth. It was that line of business team that was accountable for product growth. Nobody was really accountable for member growth, even though it was one of our department goals. And so that was a problem. I noticed that the whole team was so focused on delivering that product growth that we were forgetting about the needs of our members. And we weren't clearly prioritizing our work according to what would have the greatest impact. We really didn't have a clear way to prioritize our work at the time. Our technology and data weren't set up in a way that enabled us to rapidly scale or deploy multiple versions of personalized creative. And our creative team was a bottleneck, right? They were bogged down by resizing and getting production assets out the door. And finally, our marketers weren't set up to use their deep expertise and years of schooling, right, in training in marketing to focus on our segments. They were kind of focused on deploying mass offers because that's what we were set up to do. And according to this statistic, we were stuck back in 2022 because that's when this statistic is from. In other words, we were set up as a cost center, a service to the business. Marketing was not a driver of growth. And when I think of the future of where everything is going, to me that meant that, maybe it meant that we were replaceable because to deliver value, marketing needs to deliver growth. And we need to be able to prove that we're doing that. So needless to say, the team agreed with these observations. And as much as anyone hates a reorg, they agreed that maybe some adjustments would be helpful. And so that was the first step in our change process. So I shared my proposed structure with them, my ugly org chart, and I asked them to take some time to think about it. We got back together and, they revealed some hesitation, and I listened to them and we sat together, and we ended up actually just all together moving boxes around, positions around, on the page, and we co-created the structure that we thought was going to be right. And we had a great conversation about what would make the team more efficient and able to prioritize the members' needs over our own. So through this whole conversation, that was the thread, right? We need to focus on how do we deliver on our members' expectations? And it finally, got to the stage through that exercise that my directors were starting to say, geez, I really wish that I had my team in here to comment on this. And that was a signal to me that we were ready to take this to the next level. So we invited all the people leaders on the team into the conversation. So we brought them all together, brought them all through it, much the same way that we did it with the directors, and we co-created it together, taking careful consideration at this stage of every individual on the team. So, when we were ready to start putting names in boxes, we focused on the skills and interests of every individual on the team. And because I had all of the people leaders in the room, we had the right people, who could really opine on that. And we could have rolled it out from there, but this approach of co-creation was working so well that we decided to continue with it. We had each leader meet with their teams to talk about it and get everyone's thoughts on whether it was going to work or not. And we even gave a few of the team members a choice between which role they wanted, because we saw, they had some skills that would work for either role, and they got to choose which one they wanted. So we built this team, we socialized it in stages, first to the people leaders, then to the team. And at each stage along the way, we listened to people's feedback, we made adjustments, and we gave some people that choice. And then we began to socialize it to our internal stakeholders, signaling that changes were coming and that we were also going to be developing a new intake request process that people would have to get used to. So there was socialization around that as well. We let everybody know that it was going to be really messy. We were just super straight up front about it. And that, it was actually going to be up to them to figure out how the changes would be implemented. Because as the leader of the team, I can have this vision, right? But I don't know how to do everything. And so I needed them to have that ownership, right? To feel like they were a part of this so that they would actually go and implement the changes and figure out how to do that. So I gave each team their new accountabilities. They were focused on the member, and they figured out how to achieve it. And it is true, the first three months were really, really messy. We called it our messy middle. But I saw a lot of unity and people taking ownership and working together and helping each other out. It was really powerful. They were coming up with their own solutions to problems as they arose, sometimes implementing entirely new processes and tools. And it was like they didn't need me at all. And that was wonderful. I held bi-weekly check-in meetings with all the people leaders to work through roadblocks. And by the end of 3 months, we were like a whole new team. And so here's where we netted out. Overall, we worked together to create new roles for half the people on the team. We rewrote about 20 job descriptions. We put them all through our job evaluation process to determine what leveling they should be at. And through that process, we identified some promotion opportunities, and we were able to promote 4 people on the team. And so that was a win. Definitely helped with adoption. Am I okay? We identified places on the team where upskilling was necessary, and we developed some training plans. And this is where we netted out. So we paired brand and acquisition together now, and they would be accountable for really owning the prospect. We had a member-focused marketing team that would deliver our personalized segmented communications across the lifecycle focused on the member. And a small but mighty internal partnerships team, so they're the ones now who are focused on product, right? Because we can't lose that. We still need that, and so they're handling internal stakeholders, and they're also making sure that we're reaching those product targets. And a marketing operations team who's dedicated to technology, data, process efficiencies. They have been the lifeline of our team. And the creative team actually didn't change. We just changed how they're going to be doing things. Because we're going to democratize creative and let the team handle their production assets and let the creative team focus on building out beautiful creative concepts. So after all this, the question is it working? I mean, we just implemented it a few months ago, but yeah, it is. In fact, during the transition period, the team got out more campaigns than they had in the entire previous year. And that was despite that they were implementing new teams, processes, budget structures, internal partnerships, workflows. Everything was like just in transition. But by the end of it, we were up on every single one of our performance indicators. Our brand awareness metrics were going up. We were exceeding our new member growth targets by 28%. Product level attrition was already showing signs of decline, and our profitability was rising. Here's my main takeaway for you guys. There are lots of ways to structure a marketing team. How I've structured my team won't be the same way that you need to structure yours. We took a hybrid approach. We designed our team to fit the needs of our audience. And when you consider organizational structure, many leaders first ask the question, what do I need to get out of my team? But the real question that we need to be asking is, what does my audience need to get out of my team? Start with your audience and you're going to end up in the right place. So don't just copy what I did, right? Yours is going to look different. And don't lose sight of that through the entire thought process. Stay focused on the audience. Now, I know that if you ask me 6 months from now how it's going to be going even better, and I'm very confident in that. Because I have resources focused specifically on meeting the needs of our member and resources focused on meeting the needs of our internal stakeholders and the team. Those are my audiences. So, speaking of audiences, I'd love to hear some of your questions.
We're going to have to hold the questions for after. We're being pushed into our next panel. So
All right.
everybody can find you on LinkedIn or at lunch. I think that's the best way. So thank you very much, Susan. That's awesome. I love the member versus product growth approach. It's really, really good.